Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today I'm going to make an ice-dyed single geode, but I'm going to finish this one off a little bit early. So I've prepped the shirt like normal and I have it turned inside out. This time I'm going to start the geode up in the upper portion of the shirt instead of down in the lower portion, where I normally start single geodes. I'm choosing the area up on the shoulder part of the shirt. I'm going to pinch a single layer of fabric and lift the shirt up off of the table. When I do, that allows the shirt and the fabric to fall naturally. And then I'm going to slide my hand down to the very bottom part of the shirt and start tying sinew lines from there. I also grabbed a washable marker and just marked where I want the center of that geode to be, so that as I'm tying my lines, I don't lose track of that area. I'm using sinew because sinew has a wax coating, so wherever I place a sinew line and then tighten it down, that area is going to be defined. The lines may not be perfectly white, but there is going to be definition there. The tighter I make my lines, the more likely that I'm going to end up with white definition lines. I have lots of people mention that they have a really hard time getting their lines tight enough. And I think it's very difficult to do that without some kind of sinew puller. I know I used to just use the roll of sinew whenever I first started, would hold that in my hand and use that to tighten down my lines. And I thought I was getting them tight enough until I bought a sinew puller. And then I started to really realize how much tighter I could pull those lines before they locked down, and I got a really nice white definition line. So if you don't own a sinew puller of any kind, you might look into one, or, I've seen people use all kinds of things from wooden rattles to tart tampers, all kinds of things as sinew pullers. So you might check into trying one of those and see if maybe that helps you get your lines a little more defined. As I'm tying my geode, I'm kind of messing with the fabric. I'm trying to rough it up a little bit. I'm poking in the end, trying to keep a lot of wrinkles in my fabric as I'm tying it. That gives me a more interesting looking geode. It makes the lines more wonky and makes the center not circular. By circular, it makes it not look like a bullseye. It's not a perfect circle. Which, by the way, I'm sorry, but for some reason my video camera is not keeping focus properly. I moved my dye room around, cleaned it up, changed a few things. And since then, I've been having issues with my video camera not keeping focus the way it's supposed to. So I'm really sorry about that. I will see if I can get that worked out. But I have quite a few videos that I made right around that same time period, before I realized exactly what was going on. Once I have the geode tied, I'm going to go ahead and place this shirt aside and allow it to dry out completely. I like to dye my geodes because they're thick folds when they're completely dry. And for me, I get much better color saturation in the middle when I do that. If you want a little bit more information about this topic, I have a blog post out on my website, and I have a link to my website down below this video in the description. So for this geode, I kind of wanted it to have a little bit more of a smoky type feeling or a darker vibe to it. So I've chosen some darker kind of smoky colors. And because I have chosen the darker colors, I don't want to dye it down in the muck. I want to rack dye it, which is going to make, even though my colors are darker and kind of smoky, it's going to make them a little bit more vibrant. So I've placed my shirt on top of a rack, and I have the rack over the top of a long plastic tub or tote. Right now I'm making myself an ice barrier out of some silicone cake molds. I'm attaching the silicone cake molds together, then I'm going to wrap them around the shirt, and I'm going to hold them up close to the shirt using some wooden clothespins. I have a link down below in the description for this video for the silicone cake molds. Because the shirt is completely dry, I'm going to go ahead and lightly spray it with a little bit of soda ash solution, which I placed inside of a spray bottle. This is going to help the dye stick to the top of the shirt a little bit better. So there are several ways that you can apply the dye to a geode. You can either add your ice on first and then add the dye over the top. You can use a specific pattern in your different geode sections to apply your dye, or you can just randomly apply the dye under the ice like I'm going to do. I've chosen some pinks, some purples, and some grays. And I'm using each color more than one time on the shirt. Most of them I'm using at least twice. And part of the colors I'm actually going to apply between sinew lines. So I'm going to place the color either directly on the sinew line or split the section and use a couple different colors in a section. Like I said, I'm trying to be as random as possible. I'm kind of operating with applying my pinks first, my purples, so that I can make sure I separate those a little bit. I don't want all the pink in one area on the shirt and all the purple in one area. So for me, when I do a design like this, I think that the neutral color, which in this case is gray, is awesome to help break up some of the pinks and the purples. It adds in a new dimension to the shirt, adds in something a little bit different other than just the pink and the purple. Also, grays are great color splitters, and most of the time, the grays will split with some pinks and some purples. So let me give you the colors that I'm using. I'm using Plum Port from Dharma Trading Company, and that was a special order color. That is a zombie color from 2023. You can still order it from Dharma, but in really large quantities. If it's close enough to 2023 when you're watching this video, you might actually still be able to purchase it just as a zombie color. If not, down below in the description for this video, I have a link to a Facebook group called Tie-Dye Supplies Marketplace, where people sell those special order colors in smaller quantities. So I'm using Plum Port and Powder Pink from Dharma, Chantilly Pink and Pink Lilac from Dye Spin, Old Rose from Pro Chemical and Dye, Vintage Purple, Smoky Purple from Dye Spin, Dusty Purple from Pro Chemical and Dye, and Dusty Purple is really cool. That one has a green color split to it, which is a little unexpected. Purple 521 from Custom Colors, Ashes to Ashes, and Sleek Gray, which I think both of those are special order colors from Dharma, Mist Gray, Brushed Steel, and Charcoal Gray from Dharma. So after I get my dye applied to the top of the shirt, I'm going to add an additional sprinkle of soda ash over the top and add on some ice. After I got the first layer of ice on the shirt, I went ahead and placed it aside and allowed the ice to melt. After the first layer melted, I noticed I had quite a bit of undissolved dye left sitting on top, and so I went ahead and added a second layer of ice and allowed it to melt. Then I had a viewer contact me and ask, how do you finish off a shirt by just pouring some really hot water over the top? So I thought I would do that with this shirt. I allowed it to process maybe 12 hours after the second layer of ice melted before I started the finish process with really hot water. To finish it with hot water, I'm going to heat my water using a container and a sous vide wand. The sous vide wand will bring the water up to the temperature that you set on your wand, and it'll keep it there for as long as you set on your timer. So I set my wand to bring up the temperature to about 145 degrees. Then I just used a pot, pulled some of the water out of that container, and I'm going to pour it over the top of the shirt. This is sort of like hot water irrigation without having to use a sprayer. The hot water will provide the heat to help the dye to bond with the fabric. This is great if maybe you live in a colder climate and the ice is melted on your shirt, but you can't seem to find a place that's warm enough to allow it to process for a long enough period of time. After I poured the hot water over the top of the shirt, I went ahead and waited probably about 10 to 15 minutes before I started rinsing it. Since I just poured a whole bunch of really hot water over the top, I don't necessarily need to start rinsing in cold water to rinse out the soda ash. My hot water has already done that for me. So I can go ahead and just continue rinsing in hot water. Then I'm going to untie the shirt, and I either need to continue rinsing in hot water until my water is running almost clear, or in my case, I like to soak the shirt. So I usually put some really hot water in my utility sink, a little bit of Blue Dawn dish detergent, and allow the shirt to soak. When the water cools off, I change it out and I continue that hot water soaking process until my water remains almost clear. Then I'm going to put the shirt along with some Dharma's professional textile detergent into my washing machine and washed it using a hot water cycle. Okay, so I've washed and dried and ironed the shirt, and let's see what it looks like. Okay, so what do you guys think? I think this one looks cool. I definitely get a smoky, darker vibe from it, and I really like that. So part of the color palette for this shirt was chosen around old rose and some of the colors that I don't use that often, and I really like them together. I really like that pop of green too that comes from the dusty purple. The first time I ever used that color, I was so surprised by the green color of the dye. And then when the pop of green came out on my shirt, I loved it. So that's one of my go-to purples if I want something a little unexpected on the shirt from the color splits. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about the geode being up at the top part of the shirt though. You know, I tried to do something different because I did have a customer actually request a geode at the top part of the shirt once. So I really liked the way that shirt turned out and thought I would try it again. So that shirt was a much larger size shirt. I think it was like a 4X, and this one is a size medium. My geode I started on the shoulder and somehow it kind of floated almost to the middle part of the shirt. I do see where I wanted my original geode to be, and I do have part of a geode there, but my center just kind of expanded out into the middle part of the shirt. I don't hate it, but I think I still prefer the geode being down in the lower portion of the shirt, at least for smaller shirts like this. For a larger shirt, it probably would look good up in that corner or shoulder portion of the shirt. There's just not quite enough fabric for a nice large geode center on a size medium shirt. But overall, I really love this shirt. I think the center of the geode turned out pretty. I love all the colors together. Great color splits. I definitely have a more smoky vibe to the shirt, and I think that's cool. And by the way, if I did this shirt down in the muck, my shirt would be quite a bit darker than it is, and I'm already using dark colors, so that's one reason why I wanted to rack dye it. You know, when you choose really dark colors, if you want a really, really dark shirt, then go ahead and do it down in the muck. That's a great look too. But if you want dark colors, but maybe want it to still be a little bright, if that makes any kind of sense whatsoever, then I think rack dyeing it is a good option. And I also like the finishing it off with the really hot water. You know, it was pretty warm in my dye space, so 12 hours might have been long enough for me to get the nice, dark, vibrant colors like I have. But finishing it off with the really hot water just made sure that my dye was bonded properly with the fabric. Like I said, it's hitting winter time, so those of you who live in colder climates, using the hot water finish is a great option just to make sure your dye is properly bonded before you rinse it. It's not real fun to put all the time and the effort into a shirt and then have your colors very faded and dull. So you might keep that in mind if you live someplace where it's nice and cold. So like I said, I love this shirt, but what do you guys think? Please drop me some comments down below and let me know. And if you've enjoyed watching the video, I sure would appreciate it if you would like it, and if you'd subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you'll hit the bell, you'll receive a notification whenever I upload a new video. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.